What is it like studying biomedical science in the United Kingdom? What is the course like? How hard is it to get on the course? What routes can you actually take to study biomedical science? What are the placements like as you're studying biomedical science already? And what are the job prospects out there for biomedical science? And is it internationally friendly? That's the most important question we always have on the Rooks Health. So in this video, I'm going to be talking with a friend of mine who is a biomedical science student, final year, as well as someone who's working as biomedical science in the United Kingdom already from an international background. So I do hope you enjoy the podcast episode today. Make sure to check out the timestamps below, which you can scroll through and find different sections if those interest you. But I do recommend you watch the whole video either way. We're going to be having an all-round discussion around biomedical science, the process, a bit of the visa side of things, a bit of the studying side of things, and most importantly, the job aspects. This is a two-part video. So this is the first part talking about the studying side, and the second part will be talking more on the jobs, the markets, and all that extra as well. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to stay through to the end, and take care. All right, welcome back to Rooks Health. As always, I am Farouk, the host of the Rooks Health podcast, as well as these videos I make. And today I have a very interesting guest of mine. We're going to be talking about biomedical science. And I know a lot of people are always curious about it, have loads of questions. So this will be a two-part series. But before I start rambling on, I'll let her introduce herself, my friend Sara.
Thank you, Ricky, for having me to start with. I'm Sara, and technically I'm still a student, and I'm also working at the same time as a biomedical scientist.
Yeah, and as you can see, that's the main thing I wanted to discuss today. Those are the two topics, obviously, biomedical science. So in today's thing, we'll be discussing it, which I probably will do a whole short intro for it. This first part is going to be focusing on the studying side of it and the being a student, basically how we get on the course, how do you get on the course, what's that course like, what are you studying, placements, and all that for all those who are interested in studying in the biomedical field. It's fairly similar for other ones as well. So I'll start off with the first question for you, Sarah, is what's that? How did you get on studying biomedical science? Like, what's that process like? I know we're both international students, and you tell them where you're from and how you were able to get on to Coventry University studying biomedical science.
Well, I'm originally Syrian, but I've lived in the Middle East, and to be honest, it was me contacting other agencies and trying to figure out what I wanted, because, man, when I was 17, like, I knew, because we're such a healthcare family and it runs in our blood, basically. I know I didn't want to be a doctor yet, but I wanted to do something else at the same time. And then I discovered that course called Biomedical Sciences, and I've seen the applications of it and how it would help me as well in the future. And I think it started with that choice, and then kind of narrowing it down to what works and what doesn't, because I soon quickly realized that they don't even offer it to internationals.
Okay.
And not a lot of universities do, and I wondered why. And then I realized there's a lot of backstory to that, which includes that some universities do offer it, but it doesn't come with the registration, so it's not approved by the IBMS. So you would have universities running that course, but it's not approved by the IBMS. So by the time you graduate, even if you did your portfolio to be a registered scientist, you can't do your portfolio. They will tell you that your degree is not registered.
Okay.
So you'll end up doing a top-up course and things like that. And I think the moment that I realized that early on, I kind of understood why they've only made it to locals and not to internationals. It's because of that criteria that the university is not accredited. So in a way, it was bad because, I didn't have a lot of choices, but it was also good because it kind of helped me out. So after uni, I wouldn't be stuck and I wouldn't be saying, I have to stay 3 more months and try and, top up the course with more equivalent modules so I can have a chance to be a trainee and do the portfolio. Yeah, that was really a turning point for me.
That's very interesting. The IBMS thing, we'll touch on that later for the job aspect, actually, because that's something I'm curious
Yes.
about. I might make a short video about explaining what that is, because I've got a
Yeah.
question about the IBMS. So you're
Yeah.
saying that basically they were not some accreditations coming into the UK were not available for international students, but obviously you are able to now
Yeah.
get to the position where you are now, where you basically I think you're fine, your final year and you're still working at the same time. So how were you able to
Yeah.
get on the course, with barring all these kind of restrictions and things you have to figure out?
To be honest, because of how hard it was, I just like went with the foundation pathway that was kind of linked with the university.
Yeah,
But you can definitely still like get your GCSE and your A level results. I mean, I did my A levels at the time and I did my GCSEs, and I know I would have been qualified to do it anyways.
yeah.
But I didn't want to waste my time like waiting another year, because I did my A levels took a lot of time to kind of come through. So I just said, might as well. I'm not gonna waste more time. I might start with it right now because the criteria might change. And I know 100% that I had a seat saved because of the foundation pathway that I took.
Mm. Okay, yeah, and for those who want the foundation pathway, we were both on the foundation pathway because obviously I was going for physiotherapy, and she was going for biomedical science. It's still the setting. We took basically all the same courses. It just then it came down to different, I think, requirements specifically for
Yeah.
minor things. So that's always a route that a lot of people go down, is that foundation route, because it's kind of the, if you know, most of the time the university you're already wanting to go to and they have a foundation program, makes it a lot easier because you basically have a guaranteed slot as long as you pass the foundation and you do the requirements.
Yeah.
And I think most foundation, like some people did study in the foundation, but then went to other universities. So
Yeah.
you just have to make sure that the qualifications and the courses you're doing on the foundation can be carried over. Because I've had experiences, or I've seen people with experiences where they've done a foundation, but it actually doesn't rhyme with what they're actually trying to do. The course they want to
Yeah.
do, or they want to go somewhere else and do something else, but they'll say, "Oh, but you don't have biomedical, or you don't have biopathophysiology, or something like that." So it's always a
Yeah.
very interesting thing you have to take into consideration if you're going down the foundation route, or you just use the GCSE one, isn't it? Now, what did you, while you're now, I know you've been on the course now, it's your final year now, what was the first, what were you studying? What type of, topics, modules were you studying overall while on the course? I can imagine it's a lot if you're doing it for 3-4 years now. What's that structure like? Is it 3 years, right, or regular with 1 year, what's it called?
Placement.
Placement, or how was the structure like?
To be honest, it is 3 years, 2 semesters. We've studied a lot of pharmacy. We've
Okay.
studied a lot of medicine as well at the same time. So, and also it depends on the course. See, the thing is, with the IBMS approval of that degree, I know like some unis would say, oh, we have biomedical sciences as a degree, but really they don't have the IBMS or HCPC approval. That IBMS and HCPC approval want certain modules to be taught,
Okay.
if that makes sense. So without these criteria for the IBMS, you can't really have that experience that I'm talking about.
Oh.
So it kind of split between, being the middleman. Really, honestly, what I've really gotten out of this degree is really, really being the middleman, because you're not just um someone doing these experiments and telling what's really going on with the patients internally, by also being the middleman for the team involved in that person's care, and also kind of really investigating what's going on and trying to gather up these all of the sources that you get either from pharmacy or um the physician in charge.
Ah.
So it revolved around that.
Okay, fair enough. I get it. Yeah, it sounds like you've learned quite a lot, because I do know. Again, I know a little bit about biomedical science as to what the what the degree pertains to. I did imagine it
Mm.
involved pharmacy, knowing medical stuff, and I know it's quite sometimes it's very research oriented. Is that mainly depending on the route you go down? If you're going down more research, or what's the other route if not research?
So you could do routine work, which is what they do in the NHS, and like urgent or acute care, if not research. And I think the course gave you the spice of it, because
Oh
we
yeah.
would do our own research, like we would do our own experiments. I remember second year before COVID, we were actually creating our own viruses and like doing the codes and everything. And we had that kind of ability to experiment with that. And we conducted our own research on what the genome code was and how we would crack it and things like that. And then we ended up actually dealing with the virus. And then you have the case studies that we usually get, which kind of also showed you the emphasis of routine work. So
Yeah.
we have a patient that is, asphyxiated, you've got this going on. What do you think is happening? So I think it's really, really important to touch upon these aspects, because even in routine work, you would still have to be doing your own research to keep up with what really fits
Yeah.
the patient, what really is would be in the best interest of the patient
Yeah.
at that time.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how it is at the end of the day. Now, from the way you're sounding, would you say it's been because obviously this is very subjective as well. Now,
Mm.
is it hard? Because there's some courses I know some people who, this is not to say it, but any course, some people do different courses where they say it
Yeah.
wasn't that hard. They had quite a few lot of free time, or it wasn't as hard. I can say my physiotherapy degree was hard because if you know anything about when I was studying, because we had basically everything was longer. People will be
Yeah.
finishing in May. We'll be finishing in July. I'm in the
Yeah.
library when everyone is chilling outside. I mean, but would you say your course was fairly hard? In the time frame you have, you had to do basically 3 years. But would you say it was hard?
Um, to be honest, I was a HLS, so a health and life science representative. So I was also representative of my class. So I would know my peers' opinion as well.
Mm,
But from my own personal opinion, it was hard because of the background that I was from,
yeah.
in that sense, because there's that aspect of English not being my first language. It was a bit hard adjusting from that sense.
Mm,
And to be honest, they weren't easy on us. I'm gonna have to give that to them. They really weren't easy on us. Like, because I would sit into student rep meetings with other people from other courses, I would see that because our course was very much healthcare aligned. It's very, very much equivalent to medicine.
yeah. That's right. Okay.
They were really tough on us. So it's a good and a bad thing, because yes, you're gonna have a lot of cries, but it's a good thing. Um, in the sense that when you come out of this degree, no one can argue with what you've got, the knowledge that you've got.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like hearing that because I think what's it called when you come out of degrees like this, especially I think it's
Yeah.
intentionally difficult. They keep putting there's more pressure on degrees that involve human life. I would personally
Yeah.
say, but this is very subjective considering I study physiotherapy because
Yeah.
we're based around patients. We're based about the actions we do so you can
Yeah.
save, deter life. So there has to be that extra added pressure because
Yeah.
you make a mistake. It's not just oh, it's not as
Yeah.
it's more life threatening in some cases or more
Yeah.
significant to human beings as opposed to some others. So I know they do know that they will be added pressure. They're not going to cut you any slack because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, when they
Exactly.
expect that when you come out of the course, you should know your stuff. That's why I like having
Mm.
conversations. I know where my field is physiotherapy, but I do like having conversations with other people about different stuff that I don't know, like biomed. We'll probably have one after
Yeah.
this. Maybe we'll record that or not. But we'll leave that one for now about some biomedical topics that I want to talk about. But I think the last thing I wanted to ask about, the course particularly was you mentioned placements. So how does that
Mhm.
work? Clinical placements. So my placements as physiotherapy are embedded in the course, meaning we have like five or six 6 week placements in between different modules. I know yours is probably not like that. So how does the placement system work?
So, also to mention, when you do placement, your degree titles changes.
Mm.
So I don't graduate with biomedical sciences. No, I graduate with applied biomedical sciences.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's very, very different. Um, so placement is not part of the course, but you can take a year out and you can do placement, which I think
Hmm.
if you have that chance, I know it's very slim thin for a lot of people, but go for it.
Hmm.
Universities don't readily give that to you on a plate because it's very, very competitive. And as you said, because our type of work is quite critical, and one mistake is just the end of it. They don't offer that to students.
You
It's
have to go
because
find
of
it.
that aspect. It's because, yeah, it's not that we have a problem with you. It's just that the level of trust needs to be quite high. And
Fair
which why, like, you don't have a lot of hospitals offering out there. Fortunately enough, in Cov, they started something called the West Midlands training program, which means that the university, along with two other universities, which was Aston and Wolverhampton,
Yeah.
they do a combined sort of opportunities. They contact around 10, maybe 15 hospitals that have training officers, which is really, really crucial if you want to become registered and actually work with your title as a biomedical scientist. They do that and they say, okay, how many students can you take up? And if that actually works, and every hospital sends maybe one availability or two or three or five places, they end up gathering it and they screen every student that
Oh wow.
applies for the oh yes, the screening. I
Process.
remember I was in tears for like 6 months. Honestly. So yeah, so you have that, but you need to keep in mind you're also not only competing with your students,
Yeah.
which is at least 100 applicants from your university, you're
From
competing
other
with two
universities
others.
as well. Yeah.
Yes, that was very, very, very critical. Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, that sounds very, very competitive naturally. But I mean, you have to be just imagine there is a quite screening process, but you were successful. Were you not successful in the process at the end of the day? Um,
Yeah, that's the thing. International or not, you are successful, but international wise, I'm gonna have to say this, you have to have more on the table to offer.
that,
Yeah, that's the only thing. More in the table in the sense, don't give them a chance to say, okay, you've got these things, but other people who are not international have also got it.
Yeah, that is the story of an international student's life. For any aspect of its jobs, you have to you have to basically give them a hard reason why they shouldn't take you, basically. And
Yeah.
because if they see you and someone else who's a home student has the same qualifications, they're like, you know what? Or even if you're just a little bit better, they'll be like, you know what? They don't have to do with all your visa and all your extra stuff. They can
Yeah.
just take this person who probably, is less stressed, maybe slightly less qualified, or maybe just as qualified, but they're gonna give them the edge. So it's a story of every international student's life, mine as well. You have to kind of give yourself that extra boost overall. It's very interesting knowing how placements work, and I think that will tie us very well to the next segment, because obviously that's how placements work. Now you're very in an interesting place, which we'll talk about in the next segment, because you're kind of working. You're working or you're studying at the same time, so you were able to get a job, which is great. So that will take us to the next segment of it, which I do implore you all to check out. It will come out either very shortly or very much a bit later after this one. So make sure to stay tuned. Thanks a lot. Before we head out for this one, do you have any tips specifically for that studying element, for people who are trying to maybe get on the course or who are already on the course, trying to get maybe a placement? Any tips for them? Actually, that placement one might be good. Actually, any tips?
Yeah, so if they're on the course, they're on the course. They know what they're doing,
Yeah.
and people getting in, I don't think it's that tough. As long as you know you've got everything that they've asked for. If not, again, there's another pathway. So you've got the foundation.
Yeah.
But for placement, um, start working in different areas before you actually go into placement. So that way you can show them that yes, I can work anywhere, healthcare or not. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Appreciate. Thanks a lot, Sarah. And we will see you in the next episode. Let's pause this and wrap this up. Take care.